When it comes to growing on social media, it is not a simple thing. Time and time again, I see people ask the same questions. Ultimately, this is my attempt at trying to break down and demystify some of the most important points that I wish I had known when I first started my journey. Just conglomerate the information that's out there and available to you so that you have the best chance for success. My name is Byron Rose Kelly. I'm from Suit You Social. I do this full time. My job really is all about just trying to help people get to a point where their Instagram growth is actually happening. I will say up front that there is no silver bullet when it comes to this sort of stuff. The information that I have collected and the lessons and experience that I've accumulated in my influencer journey, I guess you'd call it, is nothing new. You can find this information anywhere, and ultimately, if you do this long enough and you stick it out, you will figure it out for yourself. My whole desire with this is to actually help move you in the right direction. If I can give you a basis of knowledge that will set you up for success, then I'm pretty happy. But enough about me. I need to say that when it comes to growing on Instagram, you need to understand that it's going to take a buttload of time and effort to actually make work. Just like any new skill or any pursuit, you will not have overnight success. It won't necessarily come easy to you all the time. You will go through an up and down journey of getting to the point where you want to go. If you are actually willing to invest that time and effort, it is very rewarding. If you don't like hearing that, if me saying that it's going to be a big task upsets you in some way or you disagree with it, then please feel free to exit this video now and go find someone else to provide you a solution. The thing I will say is when you're comparing your journey on Instagram to someone else's, there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes that until you actually experience it for yourself, you're not going to understand. If you are willing to invest the time, if you're willing to put in the effort and you're willing to learn as much as you can, then I promise you what you'll find in this video will be of value to you. Simply open your mind to it, experience it for yourself, put it into action, and then go from there. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first thing that people have a problem with when it comes to Instagram is that they don't actually understand the game they're playing and the rules that which they need to play by. And what I mean by that is it's almost forgotten that Instagram is a business, and their whole their whole business model is to entertain people. By capturing that attention and keeping them on their platform, they make money. Now you can go into the intricacies of how that works, but all you need to know is that the longer someone spends on that platform, the more money they make. They have 2 billion active users a month. In comparison, something like YouTube has 2.5 billion active users a month. So they're all vying for the same lot of attention, but Instagram gets a large portion of that pie. On average, and depending on the age bracket I guess you fall into, average use of Instagram is about 30 odd minutes per day. You times that by 2 billion people, that's a lot of time spent on screens. TikTok, for instance, I think averages about 58 minutes, which is crazy to me. That's because they have a slightly different demographic to Instagram. Again, you need to know that Instagram makes money by keeping people on their app. How do you fit into that model? It's really simple. Instagram doesn't create their own content. I mean, maybe a smidge, maybe just a tiny bit, but not enough to entertain 2 billion people. There's not enough variety that Instagram can create to actually make that happen. So you and me, as a creator, we provide the content that then is fed to the people to keep them entertained. It's a really simple concept. If you do not understand that that's your job as a creator, then you're kind of missing the bar entirely. Create content. Instagram wants you to create content. In fact, Instagram wants you to create really good content because the better at content creation you get, the more likely that's going to keep people on their app. Makes a lot of sense. If that's where you fit in, why then does it feel so hard to get to the point where your content is shown to people? Shouldn't Instagram just automatically show your content to people so they stay engaged? Well, no, that's where these algorithms come into it. A lot of people think that the algorithm absolutely hates them. I'm here to tell you right now that there is no personal component of whether or not the algorithms like you. The algorithm doesn't care who you are. The sole purpose of the algorithms on Instagram is to find content it can then show people so that they stay and watch for as long as possible. So your place in this is to create better content, and your content is pushed out to people via use of algorithms. Algorithms do not care what your content about. They simply are monitoring for inputs in the form of engagement metrics to then determine whether or not it will be successfully watched by somebody else. Instagram, because they engage with 2 billion people a month, they have a massive data pool with which to work out the behavior of humans. Humans are pretty simple when you start breaking it down to large numbers. Essentially, Instagram knows more about you and I than we probably know about ourselves. They understand what our preference for content is depending on the behavior that we display, because they can see patterns across multiple people. If I like something or I engage with something and they can work out if someone is similar to me, then they know if I'm engaging with it, there's a high chance that someone else will do the same. If you don't believe me on this sort of stuff, go do some research for yourself, go do some learning and understand how algorithms as a whole and machine learning kind of works, and then go look into things like Freakonomics and human behavior, because it will unlock your mind to why this stuff works. But if you don't want to go do that reading yourself, just trust that this is how it goes. When you think about a piece of content that you post, Instagram really wants to understand if it's going to be a good piece of content to show to more people. So they do this test on your content. I'm going to make this really simple and easy. When you post a piece of content, so we're going to call this content, they push it to some followers and some non-followers. Not many non-followers, because at the start they don't know who that might be, but they have to test it with somebody. But mostly they're going to show it to followers. Now from that, we're going to call this test 1, and maybe it's 100 people in that first little sample. And what they're looking for is the numbers behind a piece of content. Does it get some likes? Does it get some comments? Does it get some saves? Does it get some shares? These are all things that we can see on the front side that tell us if a piece of content is actually engaging. The part that we don't pay attention to, or that we're not very good at paying attention to at the start, is the stuff on the backside that people can't fake, you can't fudge. And it's things like view rate past 3 seconds, and then you've got average watch time. And we also are starting to see retention graphs, because Instagram, again, going back to what their whole sole focus is to keep people engaged on their platform. It's looking for this stuff to indicate how engaged people are, because if they're doing these things, it means they're sticking around. They're not swiping off, they're not going to a new platform, they're not going outside to touch grass or read a book or anything like that. They're staying on the platform, which means Instagram makes money. They're the things that determine it. Now, if you do good with this first group of people, if you get your likes, if you get comments, saves, shares, you are engaging people past 3 seconds, a good average watch time and good retention, it pushes it out to a new sample of people. And the test is slightly higher. So our content's still pumping out. It's going to go to more non-followers, maybe some followers still, but we've got more people viewing it. And then it'll run it through this test again. Are we getting the same numbers? And Instagram has a benchmark for stuff that they determine to be successful and worth viewing. Now, those numbers we can dive into together in a different course or in a one-on-one. But what you can learn for yourself is that this stuff is important, and go check it out. Go watch the numbers as you post more stuff. Pay attention to these things and then see how well your content performs as a result. Because it's performing well when it gets this. And then we go out. If it does good, goes out to more people, and it'll go out to more people again. Each time that it passes and it does well with this stuff here, Instagram decides, yes, this is a piece of content worth showing to more people. And we keep going out, and now we're at 10K views, all right, or 10,000 people, because you can get to views from one person, but you probably already knew that. Until this test of people no longer satisfies the new group. So we try and push out to the next one, but the same level of engagement didn't happen. So it started to flatten off, and you see that in your graph, and therefore the reel stops and it doesn't go any further at this point in time. That is the test with your content. And I talk about reels specifically here, but you can apply it to stories. You can apply it to your carousels. They don't have the same insights on carousels just yet, but all you need to know is that if your content does not get pushed out to people, it's because it's not satisfying what Instagram needs. It's not satisfying the viewers to then do these things so that Instagram can see it and then push it out. Your content simply is not good enough, straight up. And if you accept that and you accept your place in Instagram's business model, you're going to have a lot more success when you actually create content, because you know why it does or doesn't work. With that in mind, what do you do about it? I'm going to give you a real simple rule. So it's one thing to know this stuff or begin to understand it. The second thing is, how do you implement it? Every time you think about content, remember how you fit into Instagram's needs and how the algorithm tests your content. Again, really simple stuff. Every time you post something, consider the rule and understand where you fit. And if you do that, it's going to get a lot easier over time. How do you actually gain followers? I think more than answering the question of how is understanding why someone actually follows. And you can do this mental check for yourself by thinking about, why do you follow accounts? What is the actual purpose of you hitting that follow button? And the majority of the time, it comes down to the fact that you want to see that content on a more regular basis. They're good enough and they've done enough for you that you actually are happy to hit the button. These days, the app has changed so much that we know if we interact with a particular field of content, we're going to get pushed more of that. So unless there's something specific about that account and the way that they deliver information to you, you don't have to follow them to keep getting the same sort of information. So why then tip it over? And it's because we want that same delivery on a consistent basis. We want to see it pushed into our feed. You need to know for yourself and your audience that if you do not create some sort of desire for them to actually see your particular delivery, then it won't matter. So you need to think about it like a funnel. Whenever you create content, the idea is that we want to make it as broad as possible, because at the top we have all these people in here. This is the broad audience and people who might be interested. So you've done a great job of tailoring your content towards a specific area. Let's just say there's 100K people who saw something. Out of those 100K people, some people have just watched because it fell within a realm of interest. So they're interested. That's nice. Beyond the interest, did they actually find value? If they found value, let's just say that 20,000 people out of that actually saw something that they really liked and they've engaged with your account. They left you a like, they left you a comment. Out of those people, it's going to filter down even further. And maybe some of these people are going to do enough where they want to see your content again. They will give you the chance. In their mind, they start to think, oh, well, if I see them a few more times, this is good. And the algorithm will push them back into your funnel and they'll keep going back up in there and they'll keep filtering down until eventually you've done enough for them and created enough of a relationship that they will move into, I will follow this person. And there's perhaps like 100 of those people. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers. It whittles down. So from every piece of content, you have to do enough and keep people coming through the funnel enough times that eventually they spit out down the bottom and they hit that button and your follower number goes up. Here's the reality. Follower numbers do not matter as much as they used to. We have equated some sort of social status to the number that we have on Instagram. And yes, it does help us with social proof. If you're a business with 10,000 followers, you seem more reputable than a business with 100 followers. But that doesn't mean that the 100 people following you don't see you as the expert in your area or in that particular field that they can then talk to. They trust you. Think about followers as a way of ensuring that more people see your content, but you still need to deliver content to those people and be engaged with them. People will hit that follow button when they come to trust that you're going to deliver consistent content in the realms that they're interested in. Something that they continue to find value in and they want to have easy access to on a regular basis. That's really all it is. So if you can't even understand why you follow accounts, how are you supposed to understand why someone else is going to follow your account? What is it that you're actually doing to provide people enough incentive to join this funnel and then pop out down the bottom and be like, oh, hey, look, Byron's really cool. I'm going to give him a follow because I want to see him more regularly. If you can't do that, you're not going to get any followers. In regards to a rule, why would anyone be interested enough to follow you? Why would they follow you? And why should they follow you? If you cannot answer that, then you are just shooting darts in the dark blind. You need to have a clear rationale for why someone might find your content interesting enough that they want to see it on a regular basis and then stay for the rest of the journey. That's your rule, and that's how you will gain followers. What is content? Most people do not understand the difference between quality and quantity. And therefore the age-old question comes up, should I make quality content or should I make a quantity of content? The reality is you need a better definition of what quality is. If we go back to what I was talking about with the algorithms before and what Instagram's sole desire and business model is, it's content that engages people and keeps them on the platform. You do not need highly produced and over-edited content to be quality. Just because you spend 3 hours on a piece of content does not make it quality. Quality is whatever it is that will get people stopping and watching and engaging with your content enough that Instagram recognizes that it's worth pushing out to more people. That is your definition of quality, and that can be a 5-second reel, it can be a 4-second carousel, or it can be a 10-second story. So the next part, what is quantity? How much output should I have? The answer is however much content you can create without burnout. Now, some people are going to be able to create 5 reels a day. Go on to Reddit and have a look. There was a guy who created 12 reels a day, and he did it at a quality standard because he was getting a great deal of engagement with it. Would I expect anyone to be able to do that on a regular basis? Hell no. But you need to be honest with yourself, and it goes back to investing the time and effort into this venture. How much time can you spend creating content and putting it together, and how quality can you do that on a regular basis? If you can make a reel a day, a quality reel a day, then that is how much you should create. If you are seriously so strapped for time that you can only invest maybe 30 minutes a week, then guess what? You can still create 2 or 3 reels in that time. Tell you what, the more that you can do without burning yourself out, the better. As you grow, your definition of quantity and quality will change. And it's really simple. At the start of a journey, and in fact, I've left every reel I created when I first started so that I could see how dog shit my reels were at the start. The things that I created back then I thought were great. And now that I'm a couple of years deep into it, I look at those things and I go, damn, Byron, you have no idea what you're doing. And it's true, because my understanding of what quality looked like increased with the more repetitions I put in. And the same will be true for you. I have a number of clients who look at their old drafts now and go, what the hell? That's no good. I'm never posting that. And that's a fantastic realization for everybody. But you will only have that by making more. Your definition of quality will change and your definition of quantity will change, because the better you get at creating content, the more efficient and faster you will get. Something that took you 20 minutes to produce at the start might take you 5 minutes to create with 6 months of practice or a month of practice. It doesn't matter, whatever amount of time, more practice. Your definitions will change over time, but you still need to start. The first reels might take you 30 minutes. Guess what, buddy? It is what it is. Get it done. That's your quantity. That's what you're able to do. That shouldn't ever hold you back from doing it. When it comes to quality content, anything can be content. If you spend enough time scrolling on Instagram, you will see content that is blown up, and eventually you'll sit there and scratch your head and be like, why did that work? And the answer is, no one ever knows. And anyone who tells you that they can make anything viral and figure out why anything works is full of poo-poo, because no one knows. That's the truth. We just create stuff with enough of a mindset towards putting out value for our audience that eventually things stick. Here's a little secret that I actually wasn't going to include in this. You are going to get 95% of your outcomes. So the good things that you're after, like followers and views and all that kind of crap, you're going to get 95% of your outcomes from 5% of the content that you create. So 1 in 20 pieces of content are probably going to get you a majority of your followers. So this is where, if you understand the definitions for yourself of what quality and content is, you can move towards that spot where it actually will net you something in the long run. You need to trust the process. How do you actually start to implement this in an effective way for yourself? And the rule is simple. Watch every piece of content you create as a stranger. So take the bias out, remove your own mental understanding of what the reel is or the carousel is or the story is, and look at it through the lens of, if I was scrolling in my feed, would I even bother to stop and watch this or read this or consume this? If you can practice that skill and really be honest with yourself about whether or not this content is good, then you are going to have better success with creating more quality content. Engagement, the buzzword of Instagram. It is one of the most difficult things to try to wrap your head around, because from a technical standpoint, what is engagement? It's simply likes, it's comments, it's shares, it saves, it's all the activity that we can see takes place with a piece of content on the platform. Going more deeply into engagement, you need to understand that it's about forming and connecting with people. It is a human being that you are trying to enter their world. You're trying to form a relationship with this person enough that they actually feel some sort of connection with this physical barrier between us. So engagement is more about making sure that people have some sort of emotional connection or reaction, some sort of mental and cognitive process around what this content or what this person or what this brand is all about. If you think about when you go outside and you're talking to people and you're having some sort of interaction with a group of strangers, how do you know that you're actually engaged? It's all these little cues you see with the way that they react to what you say, the continuation of a conversation, maybe it's a bit more of a back and forth exchange. That's real engagement. When we try and apply that to Instagram, we forget that's what actually needs to take place for humans to interact with each other. So you have to have the ability to translate that to a digital space. And it's the same sort of thing. You need to take interest in the people on the other side of the phone. You're asking them to take interest in you. You need to do the same thing. You need to provide those opportunities, because without it, what's the point? Why is engagement important in the first place? It really does come down to, if you do it well, you will grow, because people actually want to connect with you and you're connecting back with them. If you had 1 million followers versus 1,000 followers, but out of the million, you had 0.01% of people actually interested in what you had to say and turn into, let's say, customers, you could direct them towards something. So you're going to end up with 100 people out of that million that are actually interested and maybe turn into a customer. Or if you're working with a brand, 100 people who are going to trust you enough that when you say this brand is worth buying, that they actually purchase that brand. That doesn't seem too bad. It's 100 people out of a million. I tell you what, from a marketing standpoint, a brand standpoint, I would much rather you have, I'm just going to say 10%, because one, you're a lot cheaper to work with and you're still going to net 100 customers. So this engagement number is really important. The more highly engaged your people are, and the great part is it scales. So like, let's say you keep your engagement at 10%. When you have 2K, you now have 200 customers. This engagement rate from a monetization standpoint, a business standpoint, is really important if that's where you want to lean to. Taking it back to the human perspective, if you have an engagement rate with people that is much higher, and if you're actually taking the time to get to know the person on the other end of the phone, or providing them enough value that they feel connected to you, then you are going to grow. More people are going to want to be part of that community. And that's what you hear. Grow a community on Instagram, build a brand, engage with everybody. This is what it all boils down to. How do you actually do that? And it's about applying that mindset of, I need to provide opportunities for people to actually engage. You can't engage with strangers by standing at the back of the room and just looking at them. You're just staring into their soul from afar. That's not very engaging. You know what you do is you walk up to them and you ask a question. But Byron, how do you do that on Instagram? Well, you post polls, you ask questions, you provide valuable captions, you talk to people that message you. When they DM you, ask them questions about themselves. Go and spend the time actually getting to know these people as if they were in front of you. The one little tidbit I'll put on this is just be very mindful of parasocial relationships. You're not there to be everyone's friend. You're there to do them a service and provide them value. So you don't have to, unless you are going into some sort of personal route, and that's up to you. You do not have to be everybody's friend, but you do have to treat them as if they're a human worth spending time with. If you understand that, you're going to have a much simpler time with engagement. I absolutely promise you. What can you do about it? And the rule is really simple. Provide a way for people to engage with you authentically. You actually have to give the opportunity so that it can happen. Don't be the guy standing at the back of the room, walk up and talk to someone. In the same way on Instagram, don't be the person who just expects everyone to come talk to you. You need to make the effort to go out and engage those people. Niche and audience. These two things are really simple to understand, and ultimately all you have to do is be able to articulate what each of them are. A niche is not as important as you think it is, in terms of you can create content around anything and have success. So you don't need to pick a particular niche in order to find success. You just need to be able to pick one. So pick the thing that you want to create content around, and then the niche is that centralized theme for your content. That's it. When it comes to your audience, that's a slightly different matter. So your audience is the people who are going to consume the content that you're creating within that niche. And they're going to consume it because they're interested in that thing that you're creating around. If you do not know what your audience looks like, I really mean getting down to the detail of, if you can't actually create an avatar for how this person thinks, how they feel, what they like, where they might live, how much money they have, really getting nitty and gritty with it, then you're not going to be able to create content that really resonates with them. It will eventually find it, but a little bit more forethought being put into it at the start will actually go a long way to making your content more streamlined. Better niche, better audience targeting. It's really simple. And that's why it's important. What you need to understand with having a niche is that by creating content around a centralized thing, you're essentially controlling one variable of the content creation process. You keep the niche the same, which means you can ideate and test and change all the different things around it. So for example, if you're interested in soccer or football, if you're from the UK, if you're interested in soccer and you're creating content around soccer, then soccer's the centralized theme, and you can do all sorts of things, like maybe you do tutorials on how to kick a ball, maybe you do funny skit content, maybe you do interviews, maybe you do post-game recaps. All of these things are different styles of content which will target different audiences, which is again why it's important to know who it is. But ultimately it's football or soccer that is the thing that keeps it all together. Articulating your niche, whatever it is, really important for you. Articulating your audience, again, really important because you know who you're creating content for and how. And if you think about what we talked about earlier when it comes to the algorithm, the niche is an important aspect of it, because Instagram and the machine learning that governs these things is going to scrape the content and figure out what it's about so that it can show it to the right people. If you're into football and soccer, it's no point sending it to someone who loves basketball. So the algorithm will pick up on the fact that it's football orientated, maybe it's a tutorial style video, and this audience is the type of people who like it. So again, knowing that your niche and your audience fit into the overall test and creating for that will save you a lot of hassle and time in figuring out why a content piece works or not. Control the variable. Keep the niche the same. When you get more advanced, then you can start to branch out. But prior to that, save yourself the hassle and stick to one thing. That's the rule. Stick to your niche until you're advanced. Know who your target audience is and how they will consume your content. Plain and simple. Insights and data. Straight up, if you learn to love numbers and look at this stuff, you're going to save yourself a whole load of hassle, guesswork, and pain. Because ultimately, when you start to use the numbers that are available to you, you can stop making subjective guesses around why things aren't working, and you can be more objective and therefore implement new ideas according to what numbers tell you. You're then able to measure it. I kid you not, it will save you a lot of time. Why are insights useful? Why is the data useful? It's useful because you can actually see a difference based on a test that you do. So if you put out a piece of content that's different to your old content and it has a positive impact, you can be like, whoa, I must have done something right here. Perhaps there's something to it, and you can start to think about how to incorporate that to your content moving forward. Now, if you tried something different and you got less of an impact off the back of it, you can say with some level of certainty that this is not for you, and then you don't repeat the same mistake. If you do the same content over and over and you get the same result, what does that tell you? This is why insights are useful. Where to find them is pretty straightforward. Instagram is doing a much better job at actually making it visible for us, and you really don't have to go far to get it. All the information you need is available. So one, you can go onto the insights on individual reels. Carousels and stories don't have as much, although stories do have insights that you can look at. The next part is your professional dashboard. I swear to God, if you're at this point trying to grow your Instagram account and you do not have a professional account, you need to go fix that immediately. So go make sure you have a creator or business account, and then check out your professional dashboard. There's a whole host of information in there that's actually useful to you as a creator. The last part, especially with Reels at the moment, and I keep talking about Reels and I'll explain why later, is Edits. The Edits app does a fantastic job of providing us insights. Now, over time, Instagram are gonna keep improving the insights available to us, because if we go back to the start, Instagram wants us as creators to make better content so that that better content can be consumed and keep people on their platform. They want us to succeed, and they know that the information allows us to make reasonable adjustments so that we can have success. Once you can see them and you know where to go, it's up to you to determine how it is of value to you. And I explained a little bit earlier, you're going to have to take the time to understand them for yourself. If you don't want to do that, then you are welcome to get in contact. There are plenty of opportunities for you to see. If you create a piece of content, okay, so this is content A, you get X result. If you create content B, which is slightly different to content A, and then you have an increase on X result, that means that content B did something that you should pay attention to. And you'll see that reflected in things like views and watch time and view rate past 3 seconds. Now, let's say again, you went and created content C, and instead of having an uptick in things, we have a downtick. Oh no, like we didn't get as many views, we didn't get the watch time, we didn't get view rate past 3 seconds. That tells me that content C probably we didn't get right. So either if we like this style of content, we can change it and incorporate more things that might work, perhaps from what we learned from content B, or we go scrap it, forget it. I actually really enjoyed making content B, I'm gonna do more of that. I'm gonna keep improving content. This is gonna be B.2, B.3, B.4, and each time we check, did the numbers do something? Did we get a plus? If yes, we do more of that. Did we get a negative? Oh no, well we don't wanna do as much of that. What did we learn because it's different? If you can see the differences between your content and then how it's impacted things like those insights, well, you actually are on the path to making adjustments that make sense. You're being objective about your content creation and not subjective, because I swear I'm tired of people saying that Instagram hates me and that they just throttle my content because they want me to pay for it and the algorithms have changed and you can't grow because it's too hard. No, again, the reality is you are not being purposeful enough about what your content is telling you. It's the easiest form of feedback that you can learn from. And if you don't want to learn from it, that's on you. That's not on Instagram. It's not on the audience. But this is why insights and data are really useful. And if you understand that and implement it for yourself, your life becomes a lot easier. So how do you analyze it? You start to look at it. And if you really struggle with it, there's a lot of resources out there that might help move you in the right direction. Hell, I do that for people on a regular basis. But the point is, you need to do it for yourself and have those realizations and then implement the changes based off what you see, because it's a testing process. So here's a simple rule for you. Check reel insights daily after you release a piece of content. If you post a reel job, keep an eye on how it performs, see how the numbers change. And then when it comes to checking your account insights, do that weekly. Start to become more invested and interested in what your account is doing over time, because you will notice patterns. The more you look at it, the more you'll understand. But make notes of the changes that you see and then add your thoughts to it. Keep yourself accountable. What did I see here and why did I think it happens? Test it. And then in the next check, you'll be able to see if you're right or you're wrong. That's how you use data and insights. Mindset. You know, the funny thing about any sort of journey or learning experience is that I truly believe most of it is mental. So if I think about when I did bodybuilding, yes, you've got to go to the gym. Yes, you've got to eat the food. But the things that kept me consistent over time was the mental game. The sooner you understand that this journey will impact your mindset, the faster you can do something about it. It's like identifying that you have a problem. One of the core traps I feel of people trying to grow on Instagram is that if you look for reasons why stuff isn't working, you will find reasons for why it isn't working. And I don't mean you'll actually be able to identify an issue and then provide a solution. You will just convince yourself that, hey, this doesn't work for me and I should give up. It's not my fault I can't grow. It's everybody else's fault. It's Instagram's fault. It's the algorithm's fault. It's the audience's fault. It's 2025's fault. It's the fact that AI is around now. Some bullshit like that. You need to know that the reason why something doesn't work, it comes solely down to you. You control your actions. You have some degree over the outcomes. The more work that you put into making this work, the more likely you are to actually find success. If you're not achieving your results, it simply means that you are not learning from your previous attempts. And you can call them mistakes, you know, or whatever, but the fact of the matter is you're simply not learning from what the data tells you. And with that in mind, if you're not learning, then you don't understand that growth is the product of activity over time. Right? The more activity you do and the more that you are willing to improve that level of activity, the more likely you are to actually net the result you want, i.e. in this particular instance, growth on Instagram, more followers, right? Shocking. I can assure you, I will stake my entire reputation on this. The effort and consistency that you're willing to put into this venture will yield you results. The single biggest difference between people who give it a try and people who give it a try and succeed are the ones who are willing to improve over time. You have to accept that you aren't as good as you think you are. And the sooner you unlock your mindset to that and then be genuinely curious and taking risks and taking shots in the dark and looking vulnerable or not as polished as you would like, the sooner you will have success, because you learn from those instances. You learn by doing. We all do. Like, I did it. Everyone else has done it. You haven't done it because you haven't tried hard enough yet. That sounds horrible to say, but that's the reality. If you've posted 100 pieces of content and you haven't grown, it's because you haven't done anything different. What's that old saying? The definition of insanity is repeating the same process and expecting a different outcome. I'm pretty sure it's Albert Einstein. You've posted the same thing and expected a different result every time. It's not how it works. You have to test and adapt and iterate, right? Give it a try. I promise you'll learn a lot more by doing something different than if you keep doing it over and over again. When you do post 100 times, have you actually stopped and taken the opportunity to analyze your own content, right? Are you looking at it through the lens of wanting to improve it? Do you make guesses as to why something may or may not have worked, objectively speaking, and using data and insights? Not, oh, this should have done good because it should have. Man, poo-poo, I don't like Instagram. It hates me. That's not a really good analysis. If you look at your content with an eye of, all right, I reckon this performed well because I really did a great job of delivering my value. Or I don't think this piece of content did particularly well because I didn't do a good enough job of capturing attention. Maybe I need to fix that. Actually, the funny thing is Instagram are actually providing more of those prompts these days. If you spend some time in your insights and data, you will see little things like, this reel is not being shown to more non-followers because the first couple of seconds are not that good. It doesn't say it like that, but I'll put something up on the screen. You can see it. It actually gives prompts as to what it thinks about your content and why it's performing or not performing like other pieces of content. So it's all there and you just need to be willing to accept the information that's available to you and then do something about it. Once you have created the theory as to why a content piece is not doing well or is doing well, you then need to go test the theory. Apply that thinking of why it's performing or not and test it in a new piece of content. Because every time you do that, you're gonna learn something. Either you're right or you're wrong. And if you're right, do more of the right. And if you're wrong, well, don't do that again. Do something different. It is all about intention and purpose. So even again, while you're looking at content on Instagram, if you doom scroll, you can stop right now. Because now I'm gonna give you something new to do. And that is scrolling with purpose. I don't want you to be a consumer anymore. I want you to be a creator. So when you look at content through the lens of being a creator. Why does something work? Why did this reel pop off? Looking at the account that it's attached to, do they create consistently? Was it a once-off? Are they within the same niche? Are they delivering value? Why did you stop and further the scroll? What was it about this one that you can learn something from? Because if you do that, I tell you what, you're going to improve your ability to implement it in your own content much faster than if you just tested by itself. The absolute last thing I'm going to talk about with mindset is if you are not authentic in your delivery and why you're on Instagram trying to grow in the first place, I'm sorry, but you're not going to have much success. And it comes down to the fact that people on Instagram no longer want perfectly, highly curated, fantastic 1 out of 100 people. They want someone just as human and normal as they are. They want content that speaks to them on a personal level. They want to feel like they're not just another number on the other end of the phone. They are human, and so are you, and you are allowed to put that through in your journey. So be genuine and authentic with the way that you carry yourself on Instagram, from the way you create content to the way you respond to the way you think about things, and you will have a much easier time of actually getting the result you want. I can tell you all this mindset stuff. Ultimately, you got to figure it out for yourself. And if there's one thing that you take away from this, it's simply the more that you work on your mental game, the much easier time you're going to have with implementing the rest of it. So good luck. There are some questions that pop up regularly that I'm going to address in this video because they're, I guess you'd call them noob traps. They're things at the start that we all get hung up on that don't really matter. Now, the first one is, if I have a dead account, what do I do? If I grew an account in the past and it's no longer finding success on Instagram in the modern age, then here's what happens. You need to accept that if the audience is even still active, it doesn't know you anymore. You're no longer relevant to these people because you have no established connection and relationship. So first things first, have the mindset you're starting from zero. If you don't want to start a brand new account, that's fine, but you need to know that the results that you're going to get from your content is going to feel like you're starting at zero. Take the time to reinvest attention and energy into engaging those people who might still be around. Show them the value that originally they may have been interested in when they first found your account. Make that something that you do on a regular basis again. Something that might help you in this respect, because your followers aren't currently engaged and they don't know who you are, use trial reels. They're already non-followers, and by getting some social proof and traction with people who don't know you, potentially it's going to carry over to the followers that might still be there and they see you. Now, you can take it to the extreme as well and go through, and Instagram gives you a really great feature of removing inactive accounts. I know it hurts your ego. I know it's going to hurt seeing your account, say, go from 10K down to 6K. In the long run, it's going to be much better for you if you cut the dead wood. So that's dead accounts. They can be revived, but you need to take the mindset of you no longer have the followers that you used to have. You have to feel and think like someone who's starting from scratch. That'll make your life a lot easier. Another one that comes up constantly, and for the love of God, don't do it. Do not buy followers and do not buy engagement. There are services that can give you a boost in follower numbers, and yes, it may look good for social proof, but one, you're kneecapping yourself in terms of your journey of learning is immensely harmed. You're not doing the effort of going through and building the relationships with all those people at the start. So that is going to mean that when you do get to a point where you're trying to expand further, you still have no idea what to do. You've just lost every opportunity to go through the hard stuff to make it worth it. So buying followers, no good. On the second part of it, the engagement side of things, if you don't learn how to engage your audience, as soon as they take away that service, well, guess what? You're back to zero. Are you going to keep paying for that indefinitely? Maybe, right? And if you want to, sure, like it must be a nice ego stroke. By having this fake engagement at the start, if it either goes away, then you still don't know what you're doing. And then if it stays, well, none of those people are going to turn into anything of value to you. Whether you want it to be customers or engage people that actually like your content. Again, you're just doing it purely for ego purposes. Don't do it. But ultimately, from a learning perspective, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to actually develop the skills that you need to be successful in the future. It's like if I handed you $10 million and said, go run a business. Well, you didn't earn the $10 million, so you don't know how to use it properly. You're going to lose it all. Straight up. That's why people who win the lottery, they end up bankrupt 75% of the time within 5 to 6 years. So don't buy followers. Don't buy engagement. I keep mentioning Reels a lot. And the reason I do that is going back to Instagram being an entertainment app, Reels are the single best vehicle for growth. Think about your own experience on Instagram. Do you sit there and scroll through carousel posts and single static posts and stories? Or do you go into the Reels tab and scroll through until you find something that you like? That's as much as you need to think about when it comes to why Reels are important. Now, Instagram are doing a better job at making carousels an extra option. And in fact, they're really pushing it quite heavily at the moment. It's a great vehicle for delivering value to your audience. And you will pick up some followers from it because they can be very good. But if I'm being realistic, you need to do both. Stories are also really great and they're trying to fix that at the moment. Really, it's just an insight into your day-to-day that your audience might appreciate. And again, develop some more engagement, develops more relationship. If you are trying to grow, you need to learn to post video content, or you can get really good at carousels, like really, really good at carousels. The last one that I want to touch on is the advice of copying other creators. You see this time and time again. It's probably the single most offered piece of advice for starting an account or trying to grow in space. Go pick 10 creators that are within your niche, see what they do well and learn from it. Yes, that's very valid. But the key part that people miss is the actual learning from what works for them and understanding why it works. You cannot just simply create what they do and then expect it to be good. You can't expect it to work for you every time. You will have some hits, sure. But if you take the time to actually look at why the content works in the first place, and then adapt it to your own style, in your own niche and your own delivery, then you will have more success and learn from that over time. But again, the fundamental problem with just going and copying other creators in your niche is that you still do not understand why it works. So instead of getting 6 months down the track or being discouraged before you even get to that 6 months of learning, maybe think about it from the start of what can I learn about what works for this creator that I can apply to my own content. You don't have to take the time to get there. Do it at the front, don't do it later. Copying other creators is a great way to get some sort of insight into what works for other people, but ultimately you need to know that what works for someone else isn't going to work for you. Just need to learn to apply the rationale behind why something works to your own journey. So to wrap this all up, like I said at the start, this is not going to solve every problem that you have. It's not a magic recipe for growth on Instagram. It is purely a collection of ideas and some rules to help you stay on track. If you stick it out long enough, it will happen. I promise if you implement this stuff right now, you will have a much easier time of getting to where you want to be. In that journey, the expectation would be that you continue to learn. You need to be curious. You need to do the testing. You need to put in the work. You need to take the time, do all those things. All the resources and information and opportunity are out there and available to you. You don't need to pay anyone for that. The reason why you come to someone like me is my job is to bring it down and give you that information much faster than if you were to learn it yourself and help you understand it in language that makes sense to you. Even if you decide never to engage myself or another coach or buy a course or do whatever, take the time to invest in yourself. Give yourself the opportunity, and you do that by adhering to some rules. So the rules that I offer you are every time you think about content, remember how you fit into Instagram's needs and how the algorithm tests your content with people. The second one is ask why would anyone be interested enough to follow you? Seriously, why should they follow you? Number 3, watch your own content as a stranger. Every time you create a piece of content, watch it without any bias. Remove your ego from it and genuinely ask yourself, is this something that would make you stop and watch? The fourth one is provide a way for people to engage you authentically. You have to, in the same way that when you're in a room full of people, don't expect people to come up and just talk to you because you're standing in the corner. You need to make the effort to approach and offer the chance to actually build a relationship. Do that with every piece of content. Number 5, stick to your niche. Especially at the start, stick to a centralized theme. Get to know who your audience is, know what your audience is about, who they are, what they want, why they like things, do they laugh, do they smile, whatever. Be very granular about who your audience actually is and how they consume content. Number 6, the final rule for this video is check your insights daily for Reels, check your account insights weekly, so the professional dashboard, and then note down changes. Take note of the things that have worked or haven't worked, or if there's an uptick, a downtick, whatever, and what your thoughts are. Like, make some guesses as to why it works and then test them. You follow these 6 rules from the start, or even wherever you are in your journey, because I almost will bet that you have no rules at the moment. Wherever you are in your journey, if you start with just this, you're going to have a much simpler time of growing on Instagram. And if you want more help, the resources are there. I mean, there are plenty of free resources out on the internet. As I said, go find them, go check it out, do the testing and learning for yourself, experiment, spend the time. And if you want more help, then understand that people like myself are there and offer our service so that you can cut down on time, because it's all about time. But that's it for this. If you've learned something, come follow me on Instagram at Suit Your Social, or my personal account, Byron Rose Kelly. Give us a subscribe on YouTube, follow along and ask questions. Always happy to have a conversation. Good luck.